Everybody, it's Graham Coath with another My Music. I hope you're all well, enjoying your day wherever you are. Today, in a minute, I'm going to be speaking to Yinka here, but first, let's watch this.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Yinka, thanks for joining me. Where are you coming from, sir?
As in, I'm at home.
You're in. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm coming from home. Where's home though?
London, southeast London. So,
Southeast London.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a call for Southeast London.
Yeah.
And anyone else in the world, you can have a call too.
Southwark.
Southwark. Oh, Southwark.
Yeah.
Lovely. On the old tube line. That 5 minutes walk from Waterloo. Tell me all about Sabatta. When did this project get started?
Well, Sabatta's been going for a few years. I mean, like in this incarnation, I suppose. Well, it's changed incarnations, but we had an album that was out 2018 called Misfit Music, and that's kind of how most people know us. Now, then obviously pandemic hit a couple of years later, or went a bit, I don't know what words I cannot say on this thing, but tits up is what I'm going to say.
We're going to just say Pete Tom because it's kind of
Pete Tom. Okay, we're a bit Pete Tom. So and in the midst of that, new album was conceived and recorded. I mean, at the time going into that, it was like a 3-piece, and that's essentially what it is. But it's been a few, it's a little bit different in terms of the lineup at the moment. But out of that has still emerged this new album, which is coming out in a couple of weeks. How to Get Even, and it's. I don't know if it's the sound of Southeast London, but it's definitely made in Southeast London.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, it's a title that's got some aggression to it, hasn't it? I mean, were you feeling pent up? Were you feeling like you needed get something off your chest?
Yeah, kind of. I think it's a little bit tongue in cheek as well. I guess the idea. I don't know if you've seen the cover yet or anything, but it's like my way of evening out the situation just in terms of life and stuff with music. So it's not too serious, but it's like, this is kind of how you do it. You don't get really. It comes from the expression "don't get mad, get even." So that's what's really
yeah. I know what you're saying. It's kind of like the way I feel sometimes about things on social media and stuff. You just read like all these people like mouthing off their rhetoric and whatever. You just feel like just get real,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point there that you raise actually, and that's something I deal with in some of the music in terms of how things are, how people communicate with social media and stuff. And I think it's just, what it is. It's like a lot of people don't in their lives get the opportunity to speak or say stuff or express themselves in the way they want to. So a lot of it comes out, in vitriol sometimes. Not always, but quite often on social media. So, but I agree with you. Like, it's like I feel like it's better to use that energy in something that's more beneficial to yourself, more enjoyable.
And ultimately does, and ultimately that does everybody a little bit more good as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to say, more positive, but Yeah.
In terms of the sound, where have you drawn that from? Because I can hear all sorts of things going on in there. I mean, what I like is I think there's some of there's aspects of things like the specials. There's aspects of like a little bit of kind of punk. You could even say there's aspects of even stuff like Rage Against the Machine. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of kind of dance in there as well. I mean, it's quite a nice combo, isn't it? What's pushing your buttons, sir?
Well, you see, that's a good question and good observations there, which I appreciate. Thanks. So, you know what it is? It's like, see, this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to put it like this. It is rock. It's rock music. But if you think about it, right, this is how this is a question I pose to people, maybe, like those who are aware and interested in stuff. If you go way back in the day, and I'm going to come back to pop, but you go way back in the day, you look at Hendrix, for instance. If you listen to that music and then you listen to a Beatles or a Creep, they don't really sound as similar as all that. Like, and then if you actually analyze the music, some of it, especially with the Hendrix stuff, some of that is jazz. To be fair, Mitch Mitchell is just playing jazz the whole way through, but you got this crazy guitar over it. You're right. So it's like that. So that's the first kind of aspect to it in terms of this kind of homogeneous sound, right? That sometimes people act as if it exists. It doesn't. Well, maybe it does, or it started to exist. But I think if you're a creative person, I think it's hard to do that. That's number one. I think it's hard to just make this, because and that kind of leads into the second part, which is more direct answer to your question, which is, I'm actually from, I've been in different parts of the UK, but mainly London, some Essex, some Scotland. But even if I was just living here, there's so much around. There's so many different influences musically. I think it's like the reason why my stuff sounds like how it sounds basically is because I'm not really trying to pretend I don't listen to certain stuff. I'm not trying to act, you see what I'm trying to say? Because let's be real. Like I've even heard some musicians in the heaviest genre say, "Oh yeah, well I heard someone talking about I grew up and my sister used to listen to Beach Boys, and some of that melody goes into whatever I play." I'm thinking I can't really hear it, but at least now you're admitting to certain things. Whereas people are like, that's not real to me. Like, so my sound, and the sound of Sabatta is really just the sound, I think, of rock from this time. If from me and from another person's may sound a bit different, but like you said, bits of the specials, bits of this, bits of funk, soul, reggae, what I mean, hip hop, like all of that is in there because it's just in me. You see what I mean? Because I've heard it. Sorry if I'm waffling, but that's basically
no, it's absolutely fine. Yeah. Is that what your head's like when you not even when you sit down to write, but is that what your head's like as you're walking down the road? Are you one of those people that like just hears stuff as you're going down the road and kind of pulls it together in your head, and it's like there's a because I can imagine you being like that. I can imagine you being one of those people that as you walk down the road kind of got a cacophony of sound going on in their head anyway. Is that true?
That's not too far off the truth. I mean, I listen to, I got my headphones and what, so I've got it from there. But also, things come into my mind, things come into my head, tunes, and I was just thinking as you were asking that question because I wasn't sure where you were going, but it's like even like in terms of concocting stuff, when I'm writing, I might be walking around, I might be lying in bed, I might be sitting down, and I'll just hear the different pieces. So, and then sometimes I'll be like, because I know all musicians do this, where like you'll come up with something and you'll realize, I got that from somewhere else. Like I got a piece of that from somewhere else. But where I get it, that's what's funny to me. Where I get it from could be anywhere. Like I have a little melody, and I realize, oh, that's from this tune. I might not know, but I might remember, and it's nothing. And I'm putting into the heaviest thing possible, and it's like from an R&B thing. 90s R&B tune. So that's happened before because it's all just melody, man. Sorry.
No,
It's all just
listen,
music.
Absolutely, it's all just music. I love that. We should have T-shirts with that on. It's all just music. That is the ultimate thing to have on a T-shirt, I believe.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you're right. I mean, I think sometimes we overthink how structured and everything music is. I've had some people on there that are, you know, incredibly talented musicians, you know, and in terms of the way that they compose, you know, everything's written down and then it's this layer and that layer and that layer, etc. But, you know, ultimately, I think we kind of walk around with this set of sounds that pre-existed in our mind, battering against each other, and then we, you know, and then we see stuff, and that, you know, an idea comes to light, and some of that will be rooted in whatever we've already heard or seen before. How much of it for you? How much of it also, though, because I'm always interested in this. How much of it comes from whatever instrument you pick up? How much of it comes from, you know, you sit down with a particular guitar or whatever, and it's like there's a fiscal thing, if you
That's
like.
interesting. That's interesting. Well, I don't think it, like, for me anyway, it doesn't matter if it's a guitar. It's not a particular guitar. Like so and I guess for some people it's like that, but not for me. Like any of the guitars, I've never really thought about this guitar is more. I mean, it might come from certain guitar because I might play it more, but I couldn't tell you. Like I couldn't actually tell you which guitar was written on. But now, if it's if it's like bass, because I play bass as well. If it's like bass, that might be different. But it's weird because sometimes, like for instance, I'm jamming on something at the moment, and it's like I wrote the guitar line before I wrote the bass line. But if you listen to it, it would sound like the bass came first. So it can kind of depend, but yeah, yeah, not a particular instrument, no, not for me. You gone?
No, I'm here. I'm here. It's interesting because I think that's different for different people. I mean, it just, you know, came up on the old Instagram over the last couple of days. There's a bit of a series where, like, Johnny Marr's talking about, you know, I bought this guitar and, you know, because it had this kind of sound, I was making songs with this kind of sound with it, etc. And that led to, you know, this, and then this guitar, you know. And I think for some people it literally is that, but for others, as you say, it's more a case of the ideas there, etc. Do you how long do you mess with ideas before they get structured into songs, or are you quite disciplined in terms of getting that straight down into a song, or do you wander around with? Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it depends. So I've done a lot of wandering, and then I've done stuff that like immediate. Yeah, but I've done a lot of because you know what it is. I'm wandering right now, like, and then in the, and the ironic thing about that is that the wanderer is actually in the name of the tune I'm wandering with. But you know, that's just, you know, one of those things. But so sometimes you might revisit something. So that's what I'm doing in this case. So I might have had something, then revisit it much later. Oftentimes I tinker with an idea for a long time. I might have, because you know what it is. I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, sometimes you get an idea. Let's say a song is 100%. You might have like a good 40%, which would be like the core of it, but you just can't get the other 60%. You can't, you know, so you just have that hanging around, and then eventually that comes out. But some other times it's like I just come up with I come up with the idea and it will all come out, and it won't take any time at all. Now, people, which of those is better? I can't really tell you that. It could be either, but yeah, it depends again.
There's an element, as you said earlier, there is an element of fun to the music that you make as well. Do you see that in audience reactions to your music?
Funk, you say? Or fun?
Fun,
Fun.
F-U-N. Yeah, fun.
F-U-N. Yeah. I hope. Yeah, definitely. And there should be, because that's what it's about. Like, I think, I don't know. I've thought about these things before. Sometimes in terms of, because you can get really serious about it, and I've got really serious about it. Lots, a lot, and things get intense. But that point, it's like, I'm not a person, for instance, we all have moods and stuff, but I don't generally like sad music. Isn't the main type of music I listen to. Let's put it that way. Like, there's times when you're down and you listen to stuff and it helps you kind of it's relatable and it helps you feel, I suppose, less alone in that thought or that feeling that you have if you're feeling sad. But I don't want to hear that most of the time. You know what I mean? Most of the time I want to be up.
Yeah. Do you find actually, if you listen to a lot of melancholy music, that it just takes you into that kind of place, and then it's quite hard to come out of that place?
Yeah.
I have spoken to artists who I think almost deliberately listen to a lot of that music because that's the kind of music they want to write,
Right.
And
that would make sense.
Yeah. I mean, and ultimately, if I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to, I don't know, The Cure all day long, or not that The Cure did write a few upbeat pop tunes, but if you were listening to like Disintegration all day long or something like that, your mood's going to go to there,
go down,
and it's going to be difficult to come from it.
I mean, again, like,
go on.
I was just going to say that I feel like, it kind of brings me back to the kind of the idea of the album, because like there's a range of, there's fun stuff, there's up stuff, but there's also dark stuff and down stuff. You know what I mean? And I think for me, it's like about a range. So I wouldn't,
it's like life.
It's like yeah, exactly. It's like so that's what I'm saying. There's times when I want that, but I don't want that blanket, and I don't want the happy smiley, you know what I mean, blanket either. Like that's my thing. Like, try and make it a range. So yeah.
So overall, would you say that, if I asked you, pessimist, optimist, realist, you're a realist, yeah? Would you say
I'm in the realist? Yeah, I go for the realist. Yeah.
Definitely. You're in the middle, yeah.
This is a real man. Yeah.
It's a real album. It's a real album.
Very.
Making people, maybe opening up some conversations for people and making them think about certain things. Overall, allowing them to, go on a little bit of a journey, highs and lows and highs.
Yeah, definitely.
But what would you say would be the overall thing that you're trying to achieve, which is to get people to feel and think a little bit?
Yeah, both of those. I mean, I think, and to, one of the things about this album that I consciously really felt strongly about is, I wanted it's quite raw and sounding, and I wanted it to sound that way because I wanted it to kind of reflect kind of like life and like the feeling of life. It's like I didn't want it to be
so
pristine.
Polished.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be
it feels like it's outside of reality.
Exactly, and and there's a lot of music like that at now. That it's not the music; it's the way it's being produced. It's the way it's being presented. It's like it's really that's kind of sterile. A lot of it. I didn't want that. I wanted it to actually feel like life, like you say. So you listen to it, you know, there's a feeling of the energy of the playing in the actual record. Not like, oh, we're going to make everything perfectly lined up the whole way through. And then, because that's not how it is when you go and see a good band play live anyway. It's not like that. So I wanted it closer to that, but, you know, obviously presented and polished to a degree where it's, you know, there's quality, but not like it's, you know, it's not like microwave. I you know, it's not microwave food, man.
I think that's really important for artists to be producing some music like that at this time, because, as you say, maybe, just maybe, with the improvements in digital technology, etc., we're getting too much out there that is overly cooked, you know.
That's
and,
right.
and on the one hand, it's great. I'm not gonna say that it's, you know, that it doesn't have a place. I think, you know, you can listen to something like the last 1975 album, whatever, and marvel at the way that they've put together the sound layers and the soundscapes and whatever. But that doesn't sound like that. Sounds a million miles from a live album. That sounds a million miles from a band playing live, right? It's soundscapes in your head. And if you're wanting to tell something about real life, and especially like real life in, you know, the centre of London or whatever, then it needs to feel, it needs to have that kind of bustle, right? I think that's kind of going back to what you were saying at the beginning. You've lived in a lot of different places, but by the sound of things, you've lived in a lot of those places, and you've experienced a lot of real life going around you, and you want some of that to come into this record.
Absolutely, because I think that's what makes great records. Like, whatever time they're in, whatever genre they're in, they kind of, because that's part of the magic. You know, I think that what's interesting is that, you know, all of, you know, the equipment, whatever it is, it really should just be tools. You know, it should be tools to convey your kind of emotions or whatever, and to kind of share emotions with people. It shouldn't, in my opinion, it should never be like, that's the end in itself. It's like, because, you know, on one end you can say, like, you know, it's like, just because you put everything, let's put it like this, just because you do everything analog, let's say you do everything analog, everything's on tape, everything's through this and this, that doesn't, if what you're putting through that is just like dry, you know, I don't care that it's done really warmly and whatever. I don't care, because it's still dry. So equally, just because you have the, you know, the forefront of cutting edge technology, that in of itself does not really mean anything to me. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I mean, I'll give an example that makes sense to me. I don't know if it's gonna make sense to anybody else, but I remember I saw like the last Aliens movie. I saw it in the cinema, and they had like they redid the kind of chest buster scene and this and that and all that stuff, right? And it's top line, you know, right up to that CGI, and I could see it wasn't real. I could absolutely see it's not real. I saw it on the big screen, so that wasn't like I'm seeing it on a laptop screen. And that had a impact. No, I saw it the way it's meant to be, and it looked silly. So it had all, whereas the original, maybe because it was physical, maybe, you know, it's not, you if you did it now, you'd probably do it better if you did it that way still, but it had a kind of visceral nature to it, and, you know, something tangible. So it's not the technology. So, but if you think, but the point is, they're both doing the same idea. So it's the idea is still a great idea. It's the delivery system, but the delivery system isn't the thing that makes it good, if you see what I mean, necessarily.
I totally agree. And also, I'd say with that as well, is that actually, if you think about it, some of the best scenes got a bit of an echo. Let's see if I can get rid of that. Hold on. Let's try just this for a second. Microphone. Here we go. Audio. Oh, I've got echo cancellation on. There we go. Sometimes you can win, sometimes you can't win when it comes to technology. There you go. That's just the way it is. But also, I was going to say that sometimes, if you think about some of the best scenes in perhaps some of the best TV you've seen or best movies you've seen, and maybe the same for some of the best albums you've ever listened to as well, something isn't there, right? And your brain fills in the gap, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to see everything. Sometimes it's inferred that something's there off the screen happening, and your brain fills in the rest of it. Sometimes with some of the best music, it's like, there's the bones of it are there, right? And that's enough. And actually, your brain might put extra on top of it. And I
Mine
like that.
does.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, a great example would be like, actually, if you go back to like some of those great blues records, yeah, where actually, of course, there's no singing because it's blues, and something like Coltrane or whatever, and you've got that line there. I find myself singing along, and I'll be like there, yeah, in the middle of it, and that's fine because actually there's those players understood gaps and space and allowing the music to breathe, and that allows the listener to think, I'm going to put my own imagery in and whatever on top of this as well.
No, exactly.
Sometimes maybe what we do these days is we kind of just fill that whole space and say, right, it's in glorious Technicolor, 8 surround sound. There's just no space for the brain to actually get emotionally into that anymore. There you go. Tell everybody before you go today. And it's been wonderful chatting to you, Yinka. Thank you so much for coming along. Where do they get hold of the album, and where do they avail themselves in order so that they can now go and check out what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes or so?
Okay, yeah. Well, we've been, I've really enjoyed this conversation as well, because even though it's not been like the regular interview, it's kind of been more about the vibe and the thoughts and the ideas and energy behind it. So that's really good. Now, if you want to so the new album's out on November the 17th. There's a couple of singles out already. Get Over Yourself. How to get over yourself and get your shit together. Or get your shit together. There's a lot of gets going on. Don't worry, the whole album isn't full of that. But you can get it in the usual places, the Spotify's, etc. But if you really want to support Sabatta and other artists in general as well, you can get it from Bandcamp. That you can pre-order it like right now from Bandcamp, and that's Sabatta, SABATA.bandcamp.com. That's I would recommend people get it there. Just so you show that you appreciate the music. But other than that, you can get it in Apple Music, all of that good stuff, the usual places.
There's other reasons to do it there as well, folks, because you need to sign up normally to the artist mailing list as well. It means the artist gets in contact with you. You form a strand, which is great.
Yes.
It means that the artist knows who you are. They can thank you. You can speak to them. It's got that connectivity to it. And that's important. That's important. Also, if you feel like that, there you can actually make a monetary donation. Actually, give money over for the music that you listen to, which is fantastic. Because, as we've said a million times before on this program, the 15 quid or whatever it is you spend per month to have music kind of grow out of the black dot in the corner of the room doesn't actually pay artists properly. So if you want to actually put some money in the tin, as it were, that's the place to go. And then, of course, if they play gigs or they release any merch or anything like that as well, you get to know about it, which is marvelous. Marvelous thing.
Exactly.
So please do go and do that. And I presume on Bandcamp it is just Sabatta. It's if they do Bandcamp and then search Sabatta, that will come up.
Sabatta.bandcamp.com. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
They put Sabatta in as well. They'll get it. So Sabatta, 1 B, 2 T's.
Lovely. Thank you, Yinka, for coming and speaking to me today. You have a wonderful rest of the day. I shall catch up with you soon. Folks, if you've enjoyed this today, this has been my music. Please do go and share it with your dog, your cat, your friends, everybody in your street. Maybe use it as an opportunity to say hello to somebody in your street. Maybe you've never spoken to them before. If you haven't enjoyed it today,
you're crazy.
He said it, and he's absolutely right. We'll see you again soon with more of my music. Until next time, bye.